dividing fractions again. Our first thing we want to do is flip that second fraction. So the first one's going to stay x squared minus 1 over x squared plus x minus 6. But then we're going to multiply by the reciprocal, so the 3x plus 9 goes on top, the x minus 1 goes on the bottom. Then we're going to do it just like we did the multiplying ones. Start by factoring. Now, hopefully you recognize when you look at the top of that first fraction, it has the squared term. That's the difference of perfect squares. It only has two terms. So two sets of parentheses, x and an x. The end is negative, so a plus and a minus. And the only factors of 1 are 1 and 1. We get a negative 1x and a positive 1x, which is the 0 x's that we have in the middle. On the bottom, we factored those ones with 6's a lot. X and an x. The end is negative, plus and a minus. Factors of 6 that give me the positive 1 in the middle. Plus 3 and a minus 2, right? 3 minus 2 is positive 1. Top of the next fraction. I hopefully recognize I have a greatest common factor of 3 that I'm going to divide out of each of those. 3x divided by 3 is a plain x. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Bottom doesn't have a squared, doesn't have a greatest common factor. I'm just going to leave that one alone as my x minus 1. And then I'm going to cross off my common factors. So I have a common factor of x minus 1. I have a common factor of x plus 3.
X plus 3. Oh, yeah.
And so on the top, we're going to have 3 times x plus 1. On the bottom, just an x minus 2. And write it up there so I have room for the next one. So number 14, same thing. We're going to divide fractions, so we've got to flip that second one over. So x squared minus 4 over 4x plus 4 times the reciprocal x plus 1 over x squared plus x minus 2. Factoring that top one. It's got the squared term. Came from foiling. How do we factor x squared minus 4?
4.
We're going to start with
Of the x.
X and an x. My signs, negative and a positive, one of each. And factors of 4,
2 and 2.
2 and 2, exactly. Difference of perfect squares has to end up being conjugates, same terms with opposite signs. Bottom of the first fraction. What can I do at the bottom of that first fraction?
You can do the same thing.
I can do the same
Same
thing.
you did to the top.
Nope.
Oh, you can't?
Nope, because it doesn't have a squared. And if it doesn't have a squared, it's not going to factor into 2 sets of parentheses. But I can take out a 4, right? They both have a 4 in common. So I'm going to factor it like I did this one up here. The 4 is going to go in front. Now if I divide a 4 out of each of those, 4x divided by 4 is just x plus 4 divided by 4 is 1. So 4 times x is 4x and 4 times 1 is 4, right? Top of the next fraction. Doesn't have a squared, doesn't have a greatest common factor. Got to leave it alone. X plus 1. Bottom, that has a squared, we know it's going to use the two sets of parentheses, right? So x and x, my signs. Since this is a negative, one of each, plus and a minus, factors of 2.
1 and 2.
1 and 2, and which one is going to go by the plus sign since I want a plus x in the middle?
2.
The 2 is. So the plus 2 and a minus 1. Now I can do some canceling. I got a pair of x plus 2's I can cancel, and I got a pair of x plus 1's I can cancel, right? So on the top, we have x minus 2. On the bottom, we have 4 times x minus 1. All right, go ahead, try number 15, because I know how much you like to do factoring. So you started out, you rewrote that second one by multiplying by the reciprocal, and then we started to factor, right? So on the top of the first one, we have an x and an x. Our signs, positive and a negative. And we want the factors of 3 that are going to give us a positive 2.
2 and 1.
The factors of 3. We got to factor the n number. 3 and 1, right? So I want the 3 by the plus sign. 3 minus 1 is the plus 2 in the middle. So the bottom looks really close to the top, it's just that middle sign is different, right? So that should give us a big hint on factoring. We're going to have an x and an x, a plus and a minus, but this time we're going to put them in as 1 and 3, right? We want the plus 1 and the minus 3 to get a minus 2 in the middle. Top of that next fraction. What can I do at the top of that next fraction?
Well, you flip it.
I
So it's
flipped it
gonna
up.
be
3x plus 3 on the top. What do I do to factor the 3x plus 3? Do what, Joel?
X plus 1.
Take out the 3, so you have 3 times x plus 1, right? They both have a 3 in common. So 3x divided by 3 is x, and 3 divided by 3 is 1. So whenever I have 2 terms, but there's not a squared term, look for the greatest common factor. On the bottom, it doesn't have a squared term, and it doesn't have a greatest common factor, so we just have to leave that one alone. So now what can we cancel out of there?
X plus 3,
The x plus 3s,
X plus
the
1,
x plus 1s, so our answer is going to be
3x minus 1,
3 times x minus 1
x minus 3.
over x minus 3. All right.